We are Makilala TV, the first Filipino-American TV talk show in the New York metro area. Get to know us as we talk to the community leaders, innovators, advocates, and emerging artists who affect Filipino-American life.
Cooking across cultures. Before Filipino food became crossover hit among foodies in the US, few people knew about dinuguan, a pork stew cooked in pig's blood, intestines, and vinegar, and loved by many Filipinos around the world. Today, dinuguan is being ordered in Filipino restaurants in the US by Americans who enjoy it as much as their Filipino friends do. The social ritual of eating becomes an important education on why dinuguan is a dish people from, say, Poland or Vietnam or Spain can easily relate to. Welcome to Makilala TV. My name is Jen Fuhrer, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts Rachelle Ocampo and Cristina Pastor. In today's episode, we are proud to feature two food lovers, trend spotters, and educators. Melanie Cecilio is a cooking consultant, an international chef instructor, and the founder of a cooking and baking school in New Jersey called Little Fox Kitchen. The classes are taught by industry professional instructors of diverse cultures who share how to make the best paella or paella, Italian pasta, or Chinese dumplings, to name a few. Yana Gilbuena is a chef, writer, and author of No Forks Given. Yana started the Salo Series as a way to educate folks about the history, culture, and rich heritage embedded in the Filipino cuisine. Yana brought Filipino food and kamayan to all 50 states by way of pop-up dinners and is now working to bring her Salo series around the world. Melanie, Yana, welcome to Makilala TV.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. Okay, so how did you guys get started? Let me start with Yana.
I started actually in Brooklyn back in 2013, and it started as a side hustle. Really, like I was just like, oh, there's a new pop-up trend going on, and I thought that would be a great platform to introduce Filipino food because food always brings people together, and also at that time, people didn't really know much about Filipino cuisine. So I didn't realize that by doing these pop-ups that it would eventually become pretty much my life.
That's really good. That's a great story. What about you, Melanie?
Actually, this was not my intended profession. I was off to law school, but things
Wow.
Love it.
things shifted, and I found myself in culinary in a hotel school far, far away in Switzerland. And then when I came back, I just delved really into teaching. I opened a cooking school in Manila, and then I became a recipe developer for those instant noodles, the Lucky Me and the Graham crackers. So I did that for a time with Magnolia and Monday Nissan. And then when I moved here to the United States, I continued on with teaching. I teach at the Institute of Culinary Education in New York. And then I now put up cooking schools for other people. And Little Fox Kitchen is my own. And it's here in Cranford, New Jersey. And this is where we are. So I'm really focused on teaching. Really
so, Melanie, you said law into cooking. How did that transition and trigger you to go that direction?
Well, actually, it was sort of a sad story. I lost my parents when I was a teenager, and my father was a lawyer, so I was really off to law school. And when they passed away, I really just wanted to leave the country, and it was just an opportune time. Somebody came over and talked about the school in Switzerland, but it was not about cooking. It's because I saw the video and was the video that they showed about the school was like horseback riding and swimming. I'm like, I want to go to that school. That's the school I want to go to. I was young and foolish, so I went. There was no horse. There was no tennis. It was a very, very tough school. But I fell into it, and I loved it. And
That is hilarious. Oh,
that's
Yeah, I
that's
have
the
a
story.
I have a question for Yana. Yana, I read somewhere that you plan to bring the Salo series to Europe.
Oh,
Is
I
that
did.
plan still in the works? Or is
Um,
that already happening?
Yes, I did. I actually did that in 2019, before before COVID hit.
wow.
So
How
I
did that go?
in New Zealand and Europe at the same at within like 3 months.
Wow.
Also, that's
How did
dynamite.
that?
That
How did you make that happen?
it was. I'm very fortunate now that social media is actually like easier to navigate versus back in 2014. So it was easier to connect with the global Filipinos and Filipinas, within the food industry. So I think I spent about like 7 weeks and 7 cities in Europe. So that was fun.
Very nice.
And it was more fun seeing actually like the different Filipinos, or like either Italian Filipinos or British Filipinos or Austrian Filipinos, and just to see like how they've made a life within the diaspora, and also still continue to like celebrate their identity and culture through food.
I think when I cook, my problem is finding ingredients. I mean, the only Filipino food that I cook at home because it's easy is my dad's chicken adobo.
Yeah.
You have very few ingredients, and then with the pandemic, it's really harder to get ingredients. So how did you guys? Did you guys make any changes when you went on lockdown? I'll start with Melanie.
Wow. Good question. I think I didn't. I was fortunate, I guess, because we live in New Jersey, and even during the lockdown, there were some stores, Filipino stores, that was open, and actually an Asian store, because Asian stores here carry Filipino foods ingredients anyway. So we're very lucky with that. So I was still able to go and shop for it. We still had the suka, the datong puti, and the toyo. Has to be Filipino toyo for adobo, and the vinegar and all that. So we're quite lucky in that aspect. So I didn't have a hard time, me personally.
What about you, Yana?
I'm also very lucky because I'm here in the Bay Area, and actually there's an Asian grocery store that delivers to wherever you are. I think they have it in the East Coast too. It's called and it's like a Chinese owned delivery service, but they have a bunch of like different Asian ingredients within the store. And also there were still some farmers markets that were operating at that time. And I think for me, I've always championed like being able to adapt Filipino cuisine with the local and seasonal ingredients that is available wherever you are. So as long as you have the Filipino toyo, like Melanie said, and the suka, I think you're good.
Are those the two main ingredients?
I have a
Those are the two
question.
things I don't have. I need to add that.
Anyway, that's okay. That's all right. My question is, what is the biggest misconception about Filipino food? Yana or Melanie?
That we all eat pork and lechon all the time and still manage to be this beautiful and skinny.
That's true in my house. We don't eat pork and lechon.
I know I'm just about to make pork belly for a barbecue today.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Awesome.
You were about to say
Uh,
something.
yeah, I think when you say misconception, a lot of non-Filipinos see Filipino food really through their friends. There's always like a non-Filipino will say, "I have a Filipino friend, neighbor," and
Uh-huh.
they're pretty. In my experience, though, they're pretty familiar with lumpia, pancit for
Yeah.
sure.
Adobo.
Yeah, adobo for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Empanada. Is that Filipino empanada?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Empanada, yeah.
Is it paella or paella?
Paella, I think, it's more of the upper class, really. I think when you go to Visayas and Mindanao, paella is not something they would cook. They'll cook something with rice, but not paella, really.
Yeah, we
But
have
yeah,
different versions. Like in Pampanga, they have bringhe.
yeah, that's what I say. Yeah.
In Iloilo, we have like Valenciana. So it's always like paella, but it has what was I gonna say? It uses malagkit rice instead.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So who are your customers? I mean, who's your audience?
I think mine is literally all across the board, but mostly a lot of folks who are either interested in learning about Filipino cuisine, or are wanting to connect back to their roots through food. So those are the two demographics.
Yeah.
What about you, Melanie?
Well, with us, it shifted. So before pre-COVID, the cooking school was open to the public, and so we had people coming in taking cooking classes from the town and the surrounding towns in New Jersey and in New York, and then we did corporate as well. We had corporate team building here, but when COVID hit, it was shut down. The school had to close, and so we had to quickly, or I had to quickly think
Mhm.
on pivoting the business, and so we do everything virtual now.
That's a big.
Uh, but but surprisingly, the cooking class to the public wasn't the demand wasn't that great, and I think only because it's understandably so people were not so focused on recreational activities at that time. But
Yeah.
the company started knocking on our doors for team building
Yeah.
events, and so now when we were just it opened our market really, and now we're beaming to Copenhagen and to
Wow.
Madrid and to Brazil, but we are just focused on corporate team building, and it's still going to homes across the world. And yeah, so that's our customer now. It's very, very
That's
interesting.
so
really.
interesting.
love
Yeah,
it.
I really love that idea that you were able to pivot your basically your business plan because of the pandemic. Do you think
Yeah.
that the lockdown has changed the way people eat? Like because they couldn't go out to buy certain products. But I know that Yana, you mentioned that there's delivery services, but did the lockdown really change the way people eat?
I don't know about the way people eat. They're eating at home more,
Yeah.
really by force. And I think somewhere there's a discovery of, you really are forced to, I'm at home, I have to cook before I could just pick up the phone or go to the restaurant. So I think some people kind of delve into cooking and baking and kind of discover that. And but one thing I've really observed is the family getting together more now.
Mhm.
And they're sitting down at the table and eating. When we do the corporate team building for companies, it's just not the team member. The wife is there, the husband is there, and the kids are
Oh,
there. And sometimes grandpa and grandma are at the back, giving instructions as well.
I love it.
So I think that that's what the good part. There's a lot of bad part in the pandemic, but the good part about it is the family getting together and eating together. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm having technical problems here. So can everybody hear me right now?
Yes. Yeah, it's actually good.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to find out whether the observation that Filipino food has arrived, is that accurate? Have we really arrived?
I think
Is
so.
Filipino food already out there
I
in the
think
mainstream
so.
consciousness?
I think so. I definitely think so. Like, even though like some of the brick and mortars have closed during the pandemic, there's still like an abundance of, new restaurants popping up, all these new different pop-ups that are actually like killing the game, where I'm like, wow, you really thrived during the pandemic. I applaud you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think right now we have like a new stream really of like Filipino food. I would say like power players, like for example, Kamkunanan in Pogi Boy DC, you know, um, and then I forgot her name, Melissa Miranda up in Seattle. So it's like the different coasts have their own, but also in between. Like I'm still connected with a lot of folks within the 50 states, and I love seeing that there's more popping up in either Nashville or Chicago or Ohio. So I think Filipino food is definitely here to stay, not just like a trend anymore.
Yana, have you ever considered opening a restaurant of your own?
No.
Oh,
Good
why
answer.
not?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
uh, that's really funny because every time someone asks me that, my immediate answer is no. Just because I know how hard it is to have a brick and mortar, and during the pandemic, I just saw a lot of my friends struggle to like even make rent. Like here in the Bay Area, rent is exponentially expensive. So trying to have a brick and mortar is, whew, that's a whole other animal. I don't want to touch that.
What about you, Melanie? I mean, your virtual classes are doing amazing. So, what do you think is going to happen to the in-person uh, kitchen teaching class?
Well, sorry. Well, yeah, that's a very good question. We, I don't know really the answer. I mean, restrictions have lifted here in New Jersey, uh, but but I don't know if we are going back to in person just for the cooking school. I don't know about the other businesses, but for the cooking school, at least for the year, we might not go back to in person, and only because the demand of virtual
Mhm.
corporate team building is really high. I really can't keep up with it. And so where it's a business, so where the
Yeah.
business is, if that's what's sustaining us and moving us forward, then I'm going to concentrate on that. And I think it's going to be a great demand now because a lot of our clients are corporate, are tech companies,
Mhm.
and they have shared with us that 80% of their team is not going back
Yeah, that's right.
to work, to the office, and
Yeah.
everything will be remote. So they have to get together. Team building is more important now than ever before. So we're here to accommodate or to offer that service. I know there's one company, can't mention the big company in in San Francisco that just paid 86 million as a penalty fee, lease fee, to get out of a lease contract, and it was a new
Oh,
building.
wow.
Wow.
Yes, they're paying 86 million to get out of a lease contract. That's
Mhm.
sort of like there was a light bulb
Is that
on my head. It's like, okay, they're not really going back. So yeah,
Salesforce?
sorry.
Is it Salesforce? Just kidding.
No. You can email me for
Yes.
chismes.
Is there a demand? Is there a demand from people or from companies to learn more about Filipino food?
Oh, that's
Melanie.
interesting. No, I won't say demand. I don't know if they know about it, but hey,
Hmm.
San Francisco, because a lot of tech companies are in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But I do have, I've coordinated with Filipino American
Hmm.
coordinators, that are working for these companies. I
Yeah.
don't know. It would be fun, but there was one thing I did, but this was before pre-COVID, was I went to Spain and I did a cooking class there, and my specialty is really paella,
Uh-huh.
because
Mhm.
that's because of my mother's side. She's Basque, and
Mhm.
my father's Chinese Filipino. So then it's
Yeah.
me, fried rice. And so, yeah, so when they asked me, could I do a class, and I jokingly said, well, do you want me to do paella? And they were like, I
What?
said, I'm just joking. I'm not going to teach a Spanish how to make paella. And so I said, would you allow me with Southeast Asian kind of like street food?
Mhm.
And so we did that. We did, I think we did lumpia and all that. And the
Yeah.
great thing about it is there's always a Filipino store wherever you are. And I
Yeah.
said, as long as we have the ingredients for it, we could do the class. And sure enough, you pick up the phone, and it's very funny because they can speak Spanish, and they
Yeah.
speak Spanish fluently, and then go to Tagalog
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Bisaya very easily.
That's
Very
awesome.
easily. Yeah.
So is paella your comfort food?
Was paella my comfort food? I think in a sense, because yes, she was, my grandfather was Spanish, was
Mhm.
born in the Basque. Sorry, not Spanish. They don't like to be called Spaniards. They're Basque.
Mm.
And so yeah,
Wow.
my mother cooked that. But actually, she loved the cuisine, the local Bisaya food, the fish.
Like,
She
yeah.
ate actually simply. She ate simply. She cooked this
Yeah.
for us, but
Oh.
What
her
about
herself, no.
Yana? What is your comfort food, Yana?
Oh gosh. I would say either arroz caldo or
Ooh.
soy.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So now, as a Filipino American, Yana and also Melanie, like, has that affected the way that you've conducted your business? Like trying to incorporate more Filipino people or dishes into your regular business.
I think for me, it's actually more of the reverse, where I'm trying to incorporate more of like American ingredients that, like for example, sunchokes. Like we don't use sunchokes in the Philippines, but it's abundant here in the U.S. So I try to like incorporate all these like different American seasonal ingredients into Filipino cuisine so that they can see that, oh, we can also do this with what we have versus like the other way around. And I know like it's really hard pressed to find like Filipino gulay, like trying to find malunggay or anything like
Yeah.
that. So trying to find like a comparable alternative, which are like if you're in either New Jersey or if you're in the Bay Area, what can you replace taro leaves with, for example, to make laing? So yeah.
What about you,
I
Melanie?
well, for me, being Filipino, I'd say I'm Filipina. Uh, with a business, being a Filipina, I think the Philippines is a tough country. I grew up there. I underwent, you went through political upheavals, calamities, brownouts,
Yeah.
and things like that. So it makes you very resilient as a Filipina. You're very resilient. So wherever you're placed, and if there's problems, you kind of like, okay, this is, and especially in the United States, it's very easy.
Hmm.
So, and if there's a problem, you know how we are inherently very happy people. Even if
Mhm.
there's my problema, you're
Yeah.
always like, it's okay, and you laugh and you go on with it. But on the food side, I really get people who are experts at Filipino food and who do it really, really well. It's not because I'm Filipino, I can do pancit and lechon very well. like this. No, there are other people who've done this really, really well. And
Yeah.
I invite them, and then I tell them, use this space and let's do, like Kamayan feast over here. So
I love it.
yeah.
Well, my last question is we're getting into the end of our conversation. I wish it could be longer. Is that if somebody out there was just learning how to cook or want to teach their children or their grandchildren how to cook, what would you advise them? Start with either Yana or Melanie. Go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go
Yeah.
first. No, you go first.
Children to cook or what? Start simple. Really start simple with your kids and start them young, and introduce. You don't have to. Just start them young and keep it simple. It can be just like eggs and make the most beautiful scrambled eggs that you can, or teach them how to cook rice and start there because a lot of people don't know how to cook rice.
It's true.
So if you have rice, you can cook the rice and then maybe order out some fried chicken and then eat it with the rice.
Wow.
What about you, Yana? That's a great advice.
I think for me, exposing them at a very young age to the different flavors in terms of Filipino food, like patis, bagoong, all the suka, the different kinds of suka, the different kinds of sugar that we use. And I like Melanie's advice about starting them young because I started young. I was 5 when my grandma was like, "You can start cooking,"
Awesome. So we'll start everybody young. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wish we could talk on forever. We should all get together one day and celebrate. Well, that's it for our panel. Melanie, Yana, thank you again for gracing our show and enlightening us about cooking and culture. To our viewers, thank you for inviting us to your homes, and may you find cooking joyful, as we say in Filipino, masaya. To the cast and crew, maraming salamat. Thank you. Sa ulitin here at Makilala TV. Oh my God, that was so awesome.
Thank you.